Greetings everybody and welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here to do the Great Album Challenge, which is a show that comes out on Sunday night, which means later today. Basically, it's a show in which Ben, one of my subscribers, picks 10 albums that he likes and puts them in for me to rate. In the case of this episode, we're doing the year 1977, and yes, we have done it before. We're doing 10 additional albums, so this will be a part B. He's going to pick 10 albums other than the original 10 that he picked, and I will rate them. So I've actually listened to all 10 albums. Some of them I have years and years of listening to, and so they're going to be tough to beat, as you might imagine. But anyways, I've listened to all 10, and I'm going to rank them today. I'll rank them according to the way I always do it, which is my least favorite to my most favorite. I will admit today that there is none of these albums do I dislike. I don't think I've had any such thing since we started this, but if we did, I would tell you. Okay, so the 10 albums chosen all came out, of course, in 1977. I've listened to them all at least once in their entirety. Some of them I've listened to quite a bit more. At least two of them would probably be the 1,000+ rule here applied. So anyways, without further ado, we're going to get on with it. And these are based on my own preferences. They don't signify anything significant beyond that. So that's just it. So the first album on the list, number 10, is Lust for Life by Iggy Pop. I thought this was a little bit more heavier than his other album that was released that year. I just found that I liked the other album better overall. So, number 10, Lust for Life. Low is the David Bowie album. I did like this quite a bit too. It was pretty much the same circumstances as the Iggy Pop album. It was a little bit heavier than the other album released in this year, but I disliked the other album slightly better. So the next album up is In Color by Cheap Trick, coming in at 8th place. I thought it was this album that I own, but it's actually their debut album that I own. This is actually a pretty solid album, very 50-ish sounding. Most of their first 2 or 3 albums have a lot of that 50-ish sound to them, 1950s sound to them. Kind of a rock and roll album, definitely. Pretty solid album, but not one of my favorite Cheap Trick albums. The next album up is the other David Bowie that I spoke of. This one's Heroes, and I think this one wins virtue of the fact of the song Heroes, which is I like quite a bit. There was no songs on Low that I liked as much as that song, so I think I gave it based on that criteria. So it comes in at number 7. Number 6 is the other Iggy Pop album. I like this quite a bit. It did have the original China Girl on here. I found this album to be a little bit more different sounds to it. Catchy beat, a couple songs with catchy beats, a couple songs that were a little bit different than what he had on his Iggy Pop Lust for Life album, which was a little bit more heavier. So I gave this one the 6th place on this list. Now number 5, I actually own the album. It's this one by Peter Gabriel, his debut album, or number 1 if you prefer, or Car, however you want to call it. This has long been probably my least favorite of the Bowie albums. And I know people are saying, oh, you got to give it another listen, I give Bowie all the listens you can possibly imagine. He's one of my group of 8. I love his albums. I just don't like this one as much. I don't hate this album by any means. I mean, how can you hate an album with Humdrum and Live in Salisbury Hill, which I think are 2 of his best songs? Yeah, I just overall don't care for it as much as the other albums. So coming in at number 5 is Peter Gabriel's debut. So number 4 comes from the rock band Camel. I absolutely almost had this. I had this album in a stack that I was going to buy one day, and then I did the total in my head and realized I was probably over by a couple albums. So I took 2 of them out and put them back. This was one of them. but eventually I will get it. It's a good album. I listened to it in its entirety today. I thought it's one of the better Camel albums as well, and so it's going to get the 4th spot. Now the top 3 were the top 3. It was pretty easily the top 3 as well. So the second number 2 one was this one, Kiss's Love Gun. In the day, this would have won fairly easily back in the day, because it was a Kiss album. This album hasn't stood the test of time as well as some of the other Kiss albums, although I think this is the best cover of any of those original Kiss albums, except for maybe Rock and Roll Over, which I like quite a bit. This album artist also shares that he also did Destroyer. He did Rainbows Rising as well. So, and I'm sure he's done other stuff. This was, to me, my favorite of his covers. It has I Stole Your Love and Shock Me and Almost Human, which are 3 of my favorite tracks. Love Gun's on here. So it does have a lot of pretty solid songs on it, but the rest of the album hasn't really stood up the test of time as well as some of the other Kiss albums, so it comes in at number 3. Number 2, Gentle Giant's The Missing Piece. I had heard bits and pieces of this album played live and really enjoyed it. The backside of this album is absolutely classic sounding Gentle Giant. The front side, I guess, is their attempt to play something different. They played some pop songs here, tried to get that commercial element going, and they had actually a song that was almost punky in sound, which was really different coming from Gentle Giant. But the back half of the album is so good that it supersedes Love Gun, so becomes number 2 for me. Number 1 was number 1, easily number 1, easily the best of this group here. Queen's News of the World. This is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. Great album. My favorite Queen album. Yes, the radio friendly tracks are very well known, but it's the deep cuts that I like quite a bit as well. Sleeping on the Sidewalk, I always like that. Get Down, Make Love. Fight from the Inside is absolutely an incredible song, I think. I think it's one of the most underrated Queen songs altogether. And you know, it has Sheer Heart Attack, which is on this album instead of on the Sheer Heart Attack album. But so good, just different. There's a lot of different variety on this album, much like there is on its 2 predecessors, Day at the Races and Night at the Opera, which are my 3 favorite Queen albums. Yeah, so I really quite like this a lot. And it wins fairly easily today. So we're going to go to do it in reverse, just in case people didn't really hear what I said completely, or I might have missed the number, so I'm just going to redo it. So this time we'll go from top to bottom. So we have News of the World, number 1. The Missing Piece by Gentle Giant, number 2. This album, Kiss Love Gun, number 3. Rain Dances from Camel, number 4. Peter Gabriel's debut, Car, or Peter Gabriel 1 if you prefer, at number 5. The Idiot at number 6 from Iggy Pop. Number 7, Heroes from David Bowie. Number 8, In Color from Cheap Trick. Number 9, Low from David Bowie. And the last but not the least, well, I guess in this case it is the least, Lust for Life, Iggy Pop. So I hope that you enjoyed this video on the Great Album Challenge from 1977, Part B. What would be your next 10 albums if you were going to put them in? You can put them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And we'll be back with another episode next week. But that will be the Ben's Album Challenge. So hope to see you then. Take care.